What's an unfun fact? During WW1, the British intelligence service created a propaganda campaign that said the Germans were boiling their dead to extract fat and produce nitroglycerine to replenish their dwindling supply. This lie was exposed after the war and there was a considerable amount of public outrage when similar reports came back of the atrocities that the Nazis were committing during WW2. Most people dismissed them because of the boy who cried wolf situation 20 years earlier and really damaged the public opinion of the war, which no one wanted to repeat in the first place. Parvovirus can infect dogs and cats at any particular age and kill them pretty efficiently. It's especially good at doing this with puppies. There's no cure and no antiviral, just boosters and hydration IV you can give them. When a dog comes home healthy from the recovery from a parvo infection, they are contagious for 2 weeks, and if they pee, poop or vomit anywhere at all, including dog parks, that freaking virus is able to survive for up to a year, including in 100+ degree weather. Parvovirus sucks. In 2014, the CDC once found a smallpox sample that they had lost and didn't even know it. It was just laying around in some random storeroom. This week in storage wars. Around 1.5 million people die from TB annually, which is a disease consistently treatable by antibiotics in almost all cases. Fatal familial insomnia exists. It's a rare, incurable prionic brain disease that progressively destroys your brain's ability to sleep. Eventually you stop sleeping altogether, go insane, have seizures, and die. Prions are scary, no cure treatment, and mostly deadly, but they are rare. At least, if they became somehow common like a rhinovirus, humans would almost be wiped out. Don't give 2020 any more ideas. When your skin becomes red from spending too much time under the sunlight, it's basically because your skin cells are committing suicide to avoid becoming cancerous. So when you get cancer, it's because that one stupid effing skin cell was too much of a PSY to kill itself. Well, yes, but actually no. The DNA coding of the cell that takes it through mitosis gets interrupted, or becomes defective, so it wants to kill itself. It just can't. Like me in the 7th grade, 'tis but a flesh wound the cell. Brushtail possums are coprophagic, eat their own they need their food to go through their digestive system twice to get all the nutrients. They're nocturnal, so spend the night eating eucalyptus and other plant leaves and flowers. During the day, they curl up into a little ball with their mouths close to their bumps, and eat the soft poo as it comes out in. Then while they're out at night, they poo out hard, long pellets of poo, having absorbed all the nutrients. That's just gross. Depends on what you find as fun, but King Henry VIII exploded in his coffin while the grave was being dug. The mess was cleared up by stray dogs. Buildup of gases in his body, I'm assuming. Correct. Only 1 in every 1,000 sea turtles born ever make it to adulthood. To add to this, saving baby turtles at the beach does less, almost nothing, for conservation compared to protecting adult turtles in the ocean. Another turtle didn't make it to the water. Dead people can get goosebumps. The first responder to die in 911 was killed by someone jumping out of the building and landing on them. The youngest person to ever give birth was a Peruvian girl, Lena Medina, a Quechua Indian who gave birth to a child in 1939 at age 5. She had precocious puberty and had her first period at age 8 months. She may have been married at a debauched indigenous religious festival where people often brought small children and RS were known to occur. The man who RA'd her was never found, and she was silent about how she got pregnant. The delivery was by cesarean as vaginal delivery was deemed impossible. Her son was told that he was her little brother, and she also treated him in this manner. Obviously, she was an incompetent parent, preferring to play with dolls rather than tend to the baby, but that's to be expected. The case is well documented in medical journals, including photos of her pregnant body. It is also in the Guinness Book. She later married, had another son, went to work for the physician who delivered her, and lived a quite normal life. The son was healthy but died young at age 40. She and her family both refused all requests to speak of the case, including offers of significant sums of money. As of 2008, she was still alive at age 75 and living in a slum in Lima, Peru. If she is still alive, she would be 87 years old. A human tooth has 36 calories. What the F? Hey, just think of it as a snack if you're ever lost in the wild. Male cats have spines on their penises that rake the walls of a female's vagina to trigger ovulation and to hold the female in place while mating. I know for a fact the female cats were not consulted about this. The female tarantula hawk wasp stings a tarantula between the legs, paralyzes it, then drags the prey to a specially prepared burrow, where a single egg is laid on the spider's abdomen, and the entrance is covered. Sex of the larvae is determined by fertilization. Fertilized eggs produce females, while unfertilized eggs produce males. When the wasp larva hatches, it creates a small hole in the spider's abdomen, then enters and feeds voraciously, avoiding vital organs for as long as possible to keep the spider alive. After several weeks, the larva pupates. Finally, the wasp becomes an adult and emerges from the spider's abdomen to continue the life cycle. With a name like tarantula hawk wasp, of course it has to do something as badass and brutal as this. Female tarantula hawk wasp. That's it. My 4 biggest fears put in the same lane. Touching an AM radio broadcast tower will kill you. And not only will it kill you, but it will hurt the entire time you're dying. Number 1. The voltage is so high that your hands would instantly clamp to whatever charged part of the tower you touched. Then because it's oscillating at a frequency your cells can't feel, you wouldn't be able to feel yourself being electrocuted until it starts to heat your body from the current. And you'd also be able to hear your body acting as a speaker, where you'd literally be able to hear whatever was on that particular station as you die. Effin' hell, I've been living near a tower like that for all my life and always wondered how it would be to climb. I guess not fun after this fact. Oh god. So I'd cook myself to death to the crunchy sound of morning contemporary Christian music. People who handle cockroaches develop allergies to them. This usually prevents them from drinking pre-ground coffee because of the cockroaches that get grounded in with the large batches. This is a viscerally unfun fact. Spits out coffee. Another reason to grind your own coffee. Yeah, so you can add your own locally raised cockroaches, not that from the store. When a male bee, drone, ejaculates, its testicles explode and the drone dies. It is literally a one-shot wonder. This is also a drone bee's only job. The males are literally slaves only used for breeding. And when autumn comes and the hive hibernates, all the drones are forced out of the hive to die in the cold. Sea otters kill and eat baby seals. Not always in that order. Seagulls are also known to eat baby seals' eyeballs. That brain-eating amoebas exist at all, and is also pretty commonly found in freshwater ponds and lakes. Apparently only 4 people have survived getting it in the last 50 years. I have a friend that got LASIK eye surgery, and then 2 months after she started getting eye pain and was losing her vision. Somehow, a flesh-eating amoeba got into her eye via the eye flap left over from the surgery, and started eating her cornea. She was in serious pain and eventually lost all sight. Seems like they managed to kill off the amoeba, and then she got a cornea transplant. She was crazy. I got LASIK eye surgery. One of the things they told us to do is to not go swimming after surgery until a few months. Now I know why. Thus happened to a co-worker of mine. Only they don't know where the amoeba came from. She finally was able to get her cornea transplant. It rejected, so now she has to have another one. Between this and river monsters, I see no point in getting in anything but pool water, and even that's suspect. Whales don't die of old age. Eventually they just don't have the strength to resurface and slowly drown. Maybe if they didn't ejaculate 40 gallons at a time they could live longer. Why live another day if it's not spent ejaculating 40 gallons of semen? Squirrels will eat baby birds and horses will eat baby chicks if given the chance. Pandas will eat mice and other small animals on a regular basis. Most, if not almost all, species of animals will eat other animals for a multitude of reasons. Deep sea octopus babies take 5+ years to hatch, while mama octopus never leaves the nest to feed and dies when the babies hatch. She doesn't eat for 5+ years. At least she has her mate's detached penis to play with. I see you've also been reading a lot of these. Maybe if she ate it instead of playing with it she wouldn't have to go 5 years without eating SMH. Suicide bombers are a lot easier to identify post-mortem than you'd expect. This is because the blast from the suicide belt hits the base of the head in such a way that the head pops off like a cork. Investigators therefore have a relatively intact head to ID. How do you know this? I'm seriously curious. He was a suicide bomber, duh. Tapeworms can grow up to 32 feet inside of you and they eat half of what you eat. People used to consume them on purpose to lose weight. Who is your worm guy? I swallowed a tapeworm last night. It's going to grow up to 3 feet inside of me and then it eats all my food so that I don't get fat. And then after 3 months I take some medicine and then I pass it. Creed sold it to me. It's from Mexico. Dolphins in captivity usually commit suicide by suffocating themselves. Famous example, Flipper. It gets worse, they do this by consciously deciding to not breathe until they die. It's less pressing a pillow against your own face, and more holding your breath so hard it kills you. And you are awake and aware the entire time. They get so bored and desperate they would rather die than live as an entertainment slave. In my opinion, it is the best example of a non-human entity demonstrating free will. There are only 2 states in the US that have outlawed child marriage. One of them only just put it into law a few weeks ago. 23 states don't even have an age limit on marriage. It's 3 states, New Jersey, Delaware, and Pennsylvania, with Pennsylvania being the one to outlaw it a few weeks ago. We still have a long way to go, though. Scuba divers can experience a sudden change in pressure when swimming near pipes and will get sucked inside. Doesn't matter the size of the hole. It's called delta P. Worst part, someone else usually has to go inside the pipe to remove the body. A video of the crab being sucked into the tiny crack in the pipe comes to mind when I read this. Every unborn baby grows a mustache in the womb, which then spreads to cover the entire body. The baby then eats the entire hair called lanugo, and excretes it after birth with their first bowel movement, which is a substance called meconium. What the F? Lol, you did it, man, don't act so surprised. When preparing a body for an open casket, the mortician will sew the person's jaw shut to keep their mouth from flopping open, and place special contact lenses on the eyes lined with hooks, both to keep the eyelid from snapping open due to shrinking tissues, and to give the eye a bit more natural bulge, as the eye tends to sink into the socket after death. My father is a mortician who now works for a university, but during his time as a funeral director, he embalmed some brothers who were in a terrible accident. This was a few years ago when I was in high school. They had been run over by a car, exposing their skulls. The family wanted an open casket, so my dad had to make them look as presentable as he could. He said that he had to fill the skulls with something hard because, yeah, he managed to make them look good and the family was happy. It's an art. A lot of it involves makeup and craftsmanship to make someone look like they're sleeping, so as not to freak out the family. It's definitely not a profession for the faint of heart. As a nurse, I've encountered many stillborn babies that I had to get creative to make them presentable for the parents to see, hold and give a heartfelt goodbye. One time my nurse co-worker came to me distraught because she just attended a C-section for a term stillbirth in which the physician had a difficult time delivering. The baby's head was essentially crushed from delivery and brain matter was spilling out. It was a bad scene and my co-worker needed help making the baby look presentable for the parents. I just did what had to be done using tape and rolled cotton pontoons to get the baby's face to look normal. I swaddled the little babe as best I could and cautioned the nurse not to let the parents unswaddle the baby. They had the most precious time saying goodbye to their baby. Someone took pictures and they turned out beautiful. I was so sick to my stomach knowing that I had just pieced their baby back together but stood alongside smiling with the family about how beautiful he was. This is the PTSD nurses go through. I never talked it out, just went home and was grumpy with my family and sucked down a bottle of wine. Whenever anyone asks what I do and I tell them that I am a labor and delivery nurse, I just hear back about how lucky I am to work in such a great area. They have no idea. Thanks for letting me share. What a crazy job, GBH. Respect to your dad. Thank you for not mentioning the A screw. The what now? You may have heard that South Koreans have a superstition called fan death, where if you keep the fan on too long it will kill you. The history of its origins is much darker. When people committed suicide and the coroner had to determine cause of death, they would say it was death by fan. This is to save the face of the family and not cause them shame. It eventually became a superstition and one that Westerners find funny. Finally, an explanation for this. My fault for not trying to find it out myself earlier, but at long last, an answer. Was wondering WTF this was about. First time I heard about it was when my ex, non-Korean, asked me, Korean by heritage, if me and or my family believed that leaving a fan on and going to sleep would kill us. As dead bodies decay, they burp or release gases. For this reason, caskets and mausoleums need to be ventilated so that the gas can escape. Chickens do this too. I had a hen die of a presumed heart attack. As I moved it from the coop, it let out loud chicken noise that gave me an out-of-body experience. Out-of-body mayo. The Zodiac killer could have been caught numerous times if not for San Francisco police dispatch incompetence. Many serial killers flew under the radar because of police incompetence. Dahmer did, and maybe Bundy too. Allegedly, there are 50 active serial killers at any given time in the US. Female ducks get RA'd so frequently that they have a second decoy vagina that they can offer to intruders so they don't get pregnant by the duck they don't want to get pregnant by. Females' primary vaginas also are twisted with spikes at the ends to fend off male ducks. Unfortunately, male ducks' penises are also twisted. There could be some planets swimming in the deep space without suns and even without galaxies, and you can't even see stars from their surface. Absolute darkness. Creepier is that rogue planets can theoretically harbor life. There are a lot of bug parts that we eat in our food without knowing. Just getting those extra nutrients I don't have to pay for. There's a species of river dolphin and there are less than 10 in the world. Everyone loves river dolphins. Anyone can have a brain aneurysm at any age, no matter your health situation. My 21-year-old friend had one as he walked in the door to his house. He still lived with his mother, father and sister, and his parents were making dinner in the kitchen. He asked for a glass of water, intending to take some painkillers for his sore head, and then he just fell over. The doctors said he was dead before he hit the floor. It was, and still is, devastating. All too aware of this one unfortunately. My aunt had one completely randomly about 10 years ago. She had no prior health problems, wasn't feeling unwell, nothing. It just suddenly happened. She survived but it's left her very mentally damaged and has to live in a support place indefinitely now. That really sucks that your aunt had to go through that and you have to witness it. One of my top 3 fears along with alligators and crocodiles. When the gas chambers were first assembled and experimented with at the Auschwitz concentration camp, the SS soldiers that oversaw the process found that the people inside would start screaming as soon as the gas agent was dropped in. The screaming was so loud that it could be heard through the thick walls of the building, and the victims would continue screaming over the course of 20 minutes until it gradually faded to nothing. The screaming disturbed the soldiers, believe it or not, so they tried to think of a way to drown out the noise so they didn't have to hear it. Their idea was to get 2 motorcycles and rev the engines as loudly as they could at the same time during those 20 minutes. It didn't work. And man I knew spent 3.5 years in Nazi camps. Aged 15-18. 2.5 years into it he was sent to the gas chamber line for being unproductive. He didn't have the energy to care. Everyone he loved was dead by then. While waiting in line one of the other Nazi soldiers recognized him and walked up and slugged him in the stomach and shouted "Get back to work," and pulled him out of line. That's the most morally confused I think I've been in a while. There is a whale called 52 Blue that only sings at that frequency, meaning it can't communicate with other whales. It is nicknamed the loneliest whale on the planet. There's a theory that the whale is either deaf or a hybrid species of 2 different kinds of whale, making a song that is in between those two. My heart is broken. Good night Reddit. Cockroaches stab their mates with their barbed insectics and come in the lady cockroach wound. You forgot the part where male cockroaches don't know if who they are stabbing is male or female. So they're really just coming in random roaches and hoping for the best. Man. Ain't we all? A single female tiger killed 436 people in India. She is known as the Champawat tiger. Wikipedia. That fact's not as fun as your profile. You live up to your name and I will never get tired of it. This article on waitbutwe.com is full of unfun facts. But, if you read it, maybe you can take action against it. It's called The Tail End. Here's an especially unfun excerpt. I've been thinking about my parents, who are in their mid-60s. During my first 18 years, I spent some time with my parents during at least 90% of my days. But since heading off to college and then later moving out of Boston, I've probably seen them an average of only 5 times a year each. For an average of maybe 2 days each time. 10 days a year. About 3% of the days I spent with them each year of my childhood. being in their mid-60s. Let's continue to be super optimistic and say I'm one of the incredibly lucky people to have both parents alive into my 60s. That would give us about 30 more years of coexistence. If the 10 days a year thing holds, that's 300 days left to hang with mom and dad. Less time than I spent with them in any one of my 18 childhood years. When you look at that reality, you realize that despite not being at the end of your life, you may very well be nearing the end of your time with some of the most important people in your life. If I lay out the total days I'll ever spend with each of my parents, assuming I'm as lucky as can be, this becomes starkly clear. It turns out that when I graduated from high school, I had already used up 93% of my in-person parent time. I'm now enjoying the last 5% of that time. We're in the tail end. Alright, campers. I heard from an anonymous source that Somian was spreading the feels. Not cool, dudes. The most common last words that are said before dying is typically something doesn't feel right or something is wrong. Of course, followed by a severe heart attack, stroke, whatever. Mr. Stark. I don't feel so good. My best friend's last words were I feel faint as his aorta burst. Deforestation in the Amazon got up 55% from January to April. Nobody's watching. Slash and burn it, also we make a couple more bucks. Mullen in Finding Nemo should really turn into a woman and Nemo becomes the husband. That's what happens when the female dies. There's a film theory video that asserts this is gradually happening in the movies. There are at least 8 nuclear weapons known to be missing. How the hell do you lose a nuke? Well, a lot of them were put on boats and subs. Nervously glances at the coast of Tybee Island, Georgia. The atrocities that the Belgians committed in Congo during their colonial rule. Most of the people still don't know about it. Picture like the one below is an example of the barbaric Belgian rule. Father stares at the hand and foot of his 5-year-old, severed as a punishment for failing to make the daily rubber quota. Belgian Congo, 1904. You have a higher chance of dying on the way to get a lottery ticket than actually winning. Which game are we talking, though? The numbers game. Megabucks. Powerball? Piper Perry, the girl on the couch with 5 black guys behind her meme, came home from a shoot one night to find that her boyfriend had shaken her toddler to death. That's actually really effing sad. He also beat the F out of her. Her braces were there to rebuild her teeth and jaws afterwards. Jesus Christ, the thing that was so heavily fetishized was really an actually necessary practice because of domestic violence. That's effing depressing. This is a terrible thread to go through before bed. The cat on the cover of Unfun, Jawbreaker's 1990 debut album, was named after Sammy Davis, Jr. After experiencing the symptoms of rabies, there is no going back. You are dying 100%. On average, 12 children are sexually assaulted every 45 seconds. The sad part is, I instantly thought that fraction can be reduced. 4 children are sexually assaulted every 15 seconds is way more streamlined. Seriously, who can even visualize the first thing? I'd also go with 16 per minute. Your nipples are older than your teeth. Need to change that phrase to looking a bit long in the nipple. Judith Barcy, the little girl who voice acted Ducky in The Land Before Time, was murdered by her father at age 10. All they found of her and her mother were charred remains. The father shot himself after. Nope. Could have done without this one. Your voice on recordings is actually how your voice really sounds. Your voice in your head is a bit muffled and deeper, because the sound travels through your head instead of the air. That's why it feels weird to hear your own voice recorded.